They didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make? It is our job to figure out what happened and do everything we can to prevent it from ever happening again.
Welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. Tonight we're going to talk about Hillary Clinton, as you just saw, who wants to get to the bottom of what happened at Benghazi. Well, I got bad news for her. We're going to do that right here on this episode and much more of the news. You guys are going to stick around and check it out. Hi, I'm Craig and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I always like to begin by saying thank you to everybody who's hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, please come here on the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you get notified when these videos get posted. And don't forget to hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see more. So, here's where we are. We left off at Q Post 3335, and that's where we're at, May 12th. So, a few days ago, we got our last Q Post, and they've been kind of coming in at a drip. But that's because so much is actually happening right now that for everybody who's been complaining, saying nothing's happening, please just watch the news. You guys are going to see that everything is happening as we speak. But with that being said, I always encourage everyone to come back here, watch this latest video, watch all these latest videos. If you want to get caught up on what's happened and what the Q posts have been and all that stuff, this is a great way to do it. You come here to the channel, watch these last videos, and that'll give you a good idea of what's going on. Also, if you scratch your head going, what is QAnon and what's this guy talking about? I always encourage everyone to come back here and watch this video. What is QAnon and the Great Awakening? It'll give you all that information plus a whole lot more. So you guys should go check this out when you get a second. Of course, after you watch this video. But first, before we get into anything else, if you guys haven't watched this video, I encourage everyone to come back here and watch this video. This one right here talking about what happened to Isaac Cappy. Now, it was reported yesterday that he was the one who was identified as being the victim of a suicide in Arizona. And his story is pretty incredible. This guy, Isaac Cappy, if you guys watch this video, it goes into a lot more detail about what he did. But he, to summarize it pretty quickly, he came forward. If you guys don't know who he is, watch the video. But he came forward against people like Seth Green, other Hollywood actors, and made pretty incredibly huge accusations of trafficking, sex trafficking, abuse, and all types of really disturbing stuff. If you guys want to go down that rabbit hole, I encourage you to go check out his work wherever it is. You guys can find it, just Google or YouTube search. But what's interesting about this story is the fact that in it, we talk about his final video post. Now, in his final video post, which is right here, and we talked about this, we watched this and we went through it, he talked about how he had done something that was unforgivable and that he had betrayed the movement. And there's even a full write-up here about how, you know, he wrote this whole long message about how he betrayed the Q movement and how he betrayed President Trump, or basically all of the people who had followed him. Now, I had not at that point been able to put together what he had actually done that had brought so much shame into him and made him feel that he had basically betrayed the whole movement. But luckily, I have really good sources who have shared with me some information that I wanted to just kind of put out there as a side note to this. And it's speculative, but it seems like it would fit given the context of how he described what he did. What I've heard from my sources, mind you, these are reliable people who've been giving me good information for quite some time here. Pretty much all of it always turns out to be true. That Isaac Cappy, when he came out, he was on Twitter. He was very popular. I think he went on InfoWars. He did a whole bunch of different shows on YouTube. And I had even talked to him. I had even reached out to him. We had a few conversations. And what basically happened is when he came out, he exposed this incredible story about Seth Green and having secret rooms with and how he made jokes about how they would keep people hostage or hold people against their will. And Isaac Cappy went on to basically say, hey, these people are doing these things. So he made a lot of pretty big accusations against some of the biggest people in Hollywood. Now, from what my sources are telling me, and this is, like I said, this is speculation, but it's a thought. We're hearing that it's very possible, what I'm hearing, I should say, is that it's very possible a lot of people came forward to Isaac Cappy with information about how they themselves had been abused. And that information was not handled properly by Isaac, as far as what I put together. Now, this doesn't, nothing here is definitive. Like I said, it's speculative, but what I'm hearing is that he was given mountains of information from presumably dozens of people, and he sold that information to the very people who were engaged in the abuse of said individuals who came forward. And that was his, I think, that's why he says that when we look back, we're going to be disappointed in him. That's why he says when we realize and figure out what he did, we're all going to be very, very disturbed, and it's going to shake our trust in what he was doing. And rightfully so, if it's true. So I just wanted to report that as a kind of a follow-up to that story. And of course, even Fox News covered this story. They wrote a full piece about it, or they mentioned QAnon directly. Now, I think it's just accepted by the news that QAnon exists, and they just don't want to touch it, except when, stuff like this happens, they have to. So I just thought that was interesting. But that aside, let's get back to this story. So an Anon over on the vote board posted this incredible theory about Benghazi, which, normally I'd read one of these things and I wouldn't make a whole episode around it, but people know who they are in the audience listening right now. I have sources, people who know this stuff firsthand, who are patriots, I'm not even going to get into detail further than that, but they know that this is very possible. And I'm putting this out there for you guys and for them, and I want this to be a starting point for a discussion. So let's just read it. I think it's incredible. This is, if true, it makes perfect sense. So let's just put it that way. So this was an Anon over on the vote board posting about the real reason behind Bergdahl's release. If you remember, Bo Bergdahl was the guy who was a deserter, who was picked up by the, I believe, the Taliban or Al-Qaeda. And he was, finally, they exchanged a bunch of top terrorist generals for this guy. And this is the real story. Let's listen to this. This is really incredible story. So I'll read the full thing because I think it deserves it. Finally, the real reason behind Bergdahl's release. Bergdahl was released in exchange for 5 Taliban generals in order to cover up the Obama-Hillary Stinger missile sales to Libya, Benghazi, and the matching serial numbers. Okay, so let's get into this story. It says, so here's the story. Ambassador Stevens was sent to Benghazi to secretly retrieve U.S.-made Stinger missiles that the State Department had supplied to Ansar al-Sharia in Libya without congressional oversight or permission. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton had brokered the Libya deal through Ambassador Stevens and a private arms dealer named Mark Turry, but some of the shoulder-fired Stinger missiles ended up in Afghanistan where they were used against our own military. On July 25, 2012, a U.S. Chinook helicopter was downed by one of them, not destroyed, only because the idiot Taliban didn't arm the missile. The helicopter didn't explode, but it had to land, and an ordnance team recovered the missile's serial number, which led back to a cache of Stinger missiles kept in Qatar by the CIA. Obama and Hillary were in full panic mode, so Ambassador Stevens was sent to Benghazi to retrieve the rest of the Stinger missiles. This was a do-or-die mission, which explains the stand-down orders given to multiple rescue teams during the siege of the U.S. Embassy. It was the State Department, not the CIA, that supplied the Stinger missiles to our sworn enemies because General Petraeus at CIA would not approve supplying the deadly missiles due to their potential use against commercial aircraft. So then, Obama threw General Petraeus under the bus when he refused to testify in support of Obama's phony claim of a spontaneous uprising caused by a YouTube video that insulted Muslims. Obama and Hillary committed treason. This is what the investigation is all about, why she's had a private server in order to leak the digital evidence, and why Obama took 2 weeks after the attack told the UN that the attack was the result of a YouTube video, even though everyone knew it was not. Furthermore, the Taliban knew that the administration had aided and abetted the enemy without congressional oversight or permission, so they began pressuring, blackmailing the Obama administration to release 5 Taliban generals being held at Guantanamo. Bo Bergdahl was just a useful pawn used to cover the release of the Taliban generals. Everyone knew that Bergdahl was a traitor, but Obama used Bergdahl's exchange for the 5 Taliban generals to cover that Obama was being coerced by the Taliban about the unauthorized Stinger missile deal. So we have a traitor as POTUS who is not only corrupt but compromised, as well as a Secretary of State who is a serial liar who perjured herself multiple times at the congressional hearings on Benghazi. Perhaps this is why no military aircraft were called upon for help in Benghazi, because the administration knew that our enemies had Stinger missiles, and if used to down those planes, it would likely be traced back to the CIA cache in Qatar and then to the State Department's illegitimate arms deal in Libya. Wow, I have goosebumps right now. So this is a theory. This is a speculative theory. Let me be very clear about that. But, wow. All I can say is I have sources right now who I'm talking to who are intimately familiar with what happened that day in Benghazi, with the stand down order, with the whole thing. And these are not just anybody. I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to, get ahead of it. But let me just say that to you guys listening, this sounds reasonable based on what we've been discussing. And for all of you out there who aren't in on that one, our little inside thing there, let me just say this sounds reasonable based on the information that I've been researching about this. Now, this is probably, if true, it is merely one aspect of what happened that day. But I think it's an incredibly important aspect to share as a speculative theory for you guys to look at and hopefully dig on more as I'll do the same. But yeah, I'm going to be reporting on this more, I'm sure, in the future, as well as many other things. So that's just food for thought for you guys. I thought I'd just throw that your way. Speaking of Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton seem to have had a connection to NXIVM. Now, what connection that is? Well, apparently it turns out that Claire Bronfman and Keith Raniere, the two heads of NXIVM, were very, very obsessed with doing private investigative work on basically finding and holding financial records and emails from Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton and others, including several federal judges, in order to exert, allegedly, influence over those individuals. So what this story goes on to talk about, and I'll leave a link to it if you want to read about it, but it says with the prosecutors, and I'll read the first bit here, with prosecutors in the trial of cult leader Keith Raniere planning to introduce evidence on the NXIVM sex cult's deep opposition research files on its political enemies, including Roger Stone, documents from the archives are shedding light on how the sex cult stored data on top politicians, including Chuck Schumer, whom the cult viewed as a friendly ally, according to ex-employee Frank Parlato and Hillary Clinton. So you can read more into this actual full story because there's a lot of information to unpack here. But if you've been following for a while, it wouldn't surprise anybody to know that NXIVM is connected to the highest levels. And why it was so important to expose and to arrest the leaders of NXIVM, not only for the simple fact that they were involved in sex trafficking and human rights abuses and all types of really bad, illegal behaviors, but also because they had formed a syndicate that exerted so much influence in politics that it had to be ended. And that's what we've done here. That's what President Trump did. That's why this is such an important case. And it does tie back to the highest levels, including Hillary Clinton and apparently even Roger Stone. Apparently they had some dealings. He had some dealings with this NXIVM cult as well. So this to me is one of the biggest stories that is not being reported on by the news. They won't touch this with a 10-foot pole, just like they pretty much won't touch anything I report on here on the channel with a 10-foot pole, because they're terrified of the truth, because the truth exposes their complicity and their basically allowing this to happen, and in some cases helping to manufacture lies and propaganda, and then weaponizing that for political means. What do I mean by that? Well, just look at what happened with Fusion GPS and the way that the Yahoo News article that started the whole thing on the Steele dossier, and then eventually the BuzzFeed story, well, that they used, and I remind you, that they used to get the FISA warrant, the Yahoo News article, which talked about this Steele dossier, was planted by the intelligence agencies, given to the news agencies, and then they nobody said anything. It's amazing that the people who wrote it wouldn't come forward and say, hey, you gave us this story and now you're using it for spying on the president. How is that allowed? And it doesn't even matter, because they were spying regardless. They had access to this computer program called the Hammer, but that's a whole nother story. You guys should go watch these videos. These two videos will tie a lot together, especially this one about Hammer Time. This will tell you everything you need to know about what happened in the White House Communications Agency with regard to John Brennan coming in with Dennis Montgomery and installing one of the CIA's top surveillance spy tools that was then used basically without limitation by the Obama administration to do to weaponize politically against their political opposition. So this story just is like, it keeps getting crazier and crazier, I guess. And of course, Special Prosecutor John Durham, in other news, is targeting the CIA in its role in origins of Spygate. Brennan's actions will come into sharper focus. So as you know, John Durham's been tasked with investigating the investigators. And what does that mean? Well, he's investigating the people who put together the actual FISA-gate warrants to go after Carter Page, which were then used to spy on President Trump, whether directly or indirectly. It happened. And this story kind of calls basically shows that they are going after the clowns who were involved in this. And like I said, watch the Hammer Time video if you guys want to get an idea of what Brennan's involvement really was. But with that being said, I think that we can see now that Durham's been doing this for, I reported this in the last episode, I believe. Durham's been in this investigation for over a year now. So the fact that it's now coming public means that it's probably getting close to being concluded, which means they already know everything about what happened. They're just deciding what to prosecute and what, I mean, in all reality, what can come out. So that is something that's interesting. In other news, we have here this story, which is kind of hilarious, and I'm just going to cover this briefly, where Attorney General William Barr is like trolling Pelosi at the Capitol because basically she threatened to have him, she basically said that he was guilty of perjury and all this stuff and lying to Congress. And, Nadler's committee of the judiciary actually voted to hold him in contempt of Congress. And apparently, somebody heard an exchange between Nancy Pelosi and William Barr where he looked at her and said, said, Madam Speaker, did you bring your handcuffs? As in, are you going to actually arrest me? And she kind of laughed and said, she said, Pelosi smiled and said, according to the source here, the House Sergeant at Arms was present if an arrest was necessary. To which Barr laughed and walked away. And this just shows, how empty their platitudes are, how empty their threats are that they make from the left. They make all of these statements that they know they can't cash the check on. That syndrome of the guy who writes checks he can't cash. That's what we're dealing with here. And it gets even worse when you take into consideration what Nadler's doing. He's lashing out after the White House counsel has told the Judiciary Committee to pound sand, basically, as far as their subpoenas go. And now you have Nadler saying that he's going to fine them. It's going to be immense fines. So I think this is a complete and outright abuse of the subpoena power of Congress in the committees in the House. This is a complete abuse of that power. They're weaponizing it for political purpose, and it has nothing to do with oversight. It has everything to do with political maneuvering, political kabuki, which is just the theater that they put forward for the American people, those who work really hard every day, who don't have time to spend hours and hours, such as myself, doing research and showing that these people are just completely full of it. That's what this guy is taking advantage of, and he well knows it. They all know it. Even the House representatives and senators all know that they know it. They talk about it. I mean, you hear Jim Jordan, and he lays it out perfectly. He says, they know that there's nothing here. They're doing this for political purposes, and that's really what should terrify everyone. And while all of this is happening, the Chinese are still hacking us. This is the latest hack. Now, this is the United States Department of Justice, which has just indicted 2 Chinese nationals for their role in the Anthem hack. Now, this Anthem hack is huge, almost pretty much on the same scale as the OPM, Office of Personnel Management hack, where China hacked an incredible amount of information. This one, they only got the information of around 80 million people. That's not a big deal, right? Social security numbers, birthdays, things that could be used probably to blackmail you, your medical history. No big deal. Let's keep focusing on Russia, because obviously they're the ones who are attacking us with their non-attack strategy. It's really genius what they're doing. They're getting beat up. They have a terrible economy. They are, picking little fights in third world countries with us. But don't look at China. We need to focus on Russia, because China is great. And like Joe Biden says, China's not bad. They're not coming after us. What are you, crazy? Yeah, I'm saying that sarcastically, in case that's not coming through. And of course, Facebook is using their Soros-funded, scandal-plagued pointer to eliminate conservative content online. What I think the whole thing with Facebook is, and I'm going to get this, I'm just going to do this briefly because I just want to cover this story, and this is reported out of the Gateway Pundit, of course, but Facebook's gone all in on this 2020 election. They have literally said, they figured out, they looked at the numbers from 2016, they figured out it was Facebook, which was one of the main drivers behind President Trump getting elected. It was the posts, it was the groups, it was the sharing of content. So what do? They ban people, they ban ideas, they ban your thought, they ban your ability to share links. These people are not just Orwellian, they're authoritarian fascists. And they're all like, it's you know what I said? I tweeted this out. It's the same aristocracy, different day. These are the same elitists who back in 1600 would have had people's heads on pikes. They're the same ones back in the 1940s who would have been burning books and screaming how they love, the what. And look, it's just a different day. It's the same thing. So Mark Zuckerberg, George Soros, whoever it is, this Pointer Institute recently published a list of 515 unreliable news websites. The list only included places like Gateway Pundit, Drudge Report, Breitbart News, Media Research Center, Pajamas Media, Washington Examiner, The Daily Wire, The Blaze, Red State, Project Veritas, Newsmax, Zero Hedge, LifeSite, Judicial Watch, Front Page, The Washington Free Beacon, The Daily Caller, American Outlook, and 100% Fed Up. But, they're not like biased or anything. And the woman who runs it, she's really a gem. Apparently, she is characterized in this article as being a deranged far-left activist named Merrimack College, activist Merrimack College assistant professor named Melissa Zimdars, who is characterized again as being someone who specializes in fat studies. Fascinating. I mean, that kind of expertise probably really lends itself to deciding what is unreliable news websites. Anyway, finally, I want to share this story. The White House has launched a tool for you, we, the American people, to report censorship on Facebook. Now, I've already done it. I hope you guys do too. I'll leave a link to this in the description. It's this website you come to. It's right here. You start it. You enter all your information about your story, where you're from, who you are. And I think that they're compiling a database so that they can present this to Congress. And I actually think this is going to end up being how we fight this. I mean, this is the genius idea. President Trump, if we all go here to this website, which I'll leave a link to in the description, if we all go to this website and tell them what your story is, have you been unsubscribed from my channel? Have you been unable to see this content? Have you been suspended on Twitter? Have you been, deplatformed? Whatever it is, come tell your story, because they're putting together a database of all of these examples of how social media has discriminated. And I think it's an incredibly important website. And I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up. So I hope you guys enjoyed. A few more things before you go. If you want to help out the channel, the best way to do it is to come here, hit the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see more. Also, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below in the comments, because I want to hear what you guys have to think about all of this, and that's a cool way you can help out the channel as well. A couple other ways you can help out. Come over here and find me on Twitter at JustInformYou. Again, that's at JustInformYou, the letter U, on Twitter. You guys come find me and give me a like or a follow, and we can have a conversation over here. It's a great way to connect. I encourage everyone to go check that out. Also, don't forget to check out justinformednews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk, where you'll get all of the latest Q stuff, Q information links, all the different, basically all of the unreliable news sources that were listed in that article are right here for you to come check out. And we got live news feeds. And you get all of the latest videos from the YouTube channel here as well, so that helps out. A couple other ways you can help out are both financial. Patreon is a crowdfunding website, patreon.com/justinformedtalk. Link will be in the description. When you come here, you just click this button to become a patron. You set it and forget it. It's a monthly donation, and your help is what your financial support is what keeps this channel alive and running. And I couldn't do it without you guys, so thank you. Also, I have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or an anonymous donation. Those two things are always there if you guys want to help the channel out, and I really can't tell you how much it means to me to have that help. Before we go, I'm going to read a little piece of scripture here in the segment we do at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is greater. And for today, I'm going to read out of the book of Malachi, chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. And it says, "For indeed the day is coming, burning like a furnace, when all the arrogant and everyone who commits wickedness will become stubble. The coming day will consume them, says the Lord of hosts, not leaving them root or branch. But for you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its wings, and you will go out and playfully jump like calves from the stall. You will trample the wicked, for they will be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day I am preparing, says the Lord of hosts." And that's it, guys. That's what our ultimate faith and trust in the Lord gives us. It gives us the solace and contentness of knowing that God is going to prevail. Read the Bible. God wins. Evil does not. And this is a message, I think, for everyone out there. When you see all these stories, when you hear all this stuff, and maybe you're starting to get a little down or depressed, just remember in your heart of hearts, God is going to take care of the righteous, and he will deliver us from this evil. All we have to do is have faith in God, and God is always there for us. So that's where I want to leave it. I want to say thank you guys for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you should come here and click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and that thumbs up button, yeah, that one right there at the bottom of the screen, click it. That lets me know you guys like this content and you want to see more. But that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.